My sister and I were presented with a magical choice. The system asked, $1 billion or your mom? Pick one. My sister, without a moment's hesitation, chose the $1 billion. She then married into the prestigious King family, complete with a $1 billion dowry. I, on the other hand, went with my remarried mom to live a normal life. But who would have known that less than 3 years after her wedding, the King family would go bankrupt? Her husband took the money and fled the country, leaving her to take the fall and go to prison. The first thing she did after getting out was come to kill me. When I opened my eyes again, we were right back on that fateful day, facing the same choice. This time she spoke first, choosing our mom. I smiled. Finally, someone else was going to walk into that den of vipers for me. I choose mom. When my twin sister Zoe said those words, her face was filled with undisguised smugness, the exact same expression she wore after making her choice in our past life. Last time, she chose the $1 billion and ended up with a tragic fate. It seemed this time, she was supremely confident in her new decision. That left me with no choice. I had to accept the King family's $1 billion dowry and marry the son of the richest man in the country, Julian King. Our wedding day was a spectacle. Big shots from every field across the country came to attend, but there was one person missing, the groom. It was the same thing that happened when Zoe married him in our past life. It's funny really. Julian was so childish that he refused to show up to his own wedding just to prove his undying love for the one that got away. The truth is, I knew that whether he married my sister in the last life or me in this one, it was only because his family was pressuring him to get married, and because we both bear a striking resemblance to his first love. In his words, we were a decent enough stand-in. The groom's absence made the ceremony incredibly awkward. As I stood alone next to the officiant, I caught a glimpse of Zoe in the crowd, a mocking smirk plastered on her face. The first time around when she was in this situation, she was so furious and embarrassed that she burst into tears, making an already awkward scene even more so. This time, she was clearly determined to enjoy the show. My dear sister has always been like that. She can't stand to see me doing better than her. When we were kids, she loved to slack off while I studied hard. I got good grades and was always praised at school, which she couldn't stand, so she teamed up with the school bullies to pick on me. Thanks to her doing this my whole life, I've become pretty unflappable. I felt no resentment. I smiled and went through all the motions the MC had planned. During the reception, as I made the rounds, several wealthy wives praised me, saying I was graceful and poised, handling such a difficult situation with composure. They all thought I was suffering some great injustice, forcing myself to put on a brave face. But what they didn't know was that I genuinely didn't care. It was just a wedding. Who cares if the groom shows up or not? As long as the $1 billion hit my account, it was all good. After all, I wasn't marrying him for the idiot himself. That night, as soon as we got home, my mother-in-law laid into Julian, calling him a useless disappointment who didn't understand the bigger picture and had nearly disgraced the King family. Do you have any idea what would have happened today if Chloe hadn't held it together? Our family would have become a laughingstock. Faced with his own mother's criticism, Julian looked indignant. My mother-in-law was beyond frustrated. I don't know what you have to complain about, being able to marry a girl like Chloe. You really think she's marrying up? I'd say we're the ones who married up. Do you have any idea who Chloe is? Ace. Alright, stop talking. Julian cut her off. I don't care who she is. With that, he got up from the sofa, strode over to me, and stared me down, his eyes completely void of warmth. You're just a substitute, and a substitute should know her place. Remember, I will never touch you, so don't even think about trying anything with me. Oh God. The sheer stupidity radiating from him was nauseating. If my mother-in-law hadn't been there, I would have told him to get away from me. I'm practically allergic to idiots. I squeezed out the fakest smile I could manage and said, that would be for the best. Zoe was even more impatient than I thought. It had been less than a month since my wedding, and she was already eager to flaunt her new life. To make sure I wouldn't refuse, she even came up with a great excuse and had my mom deliver the message. Your sister found a really great boyfriend. I'm worried she's being scammed. Could you check him out for me? We met at a coffee shop that Zoe picked. We'd barely exchanged a few words before she started bragging about how it was her favorite spot. As she spoke, she wrapped her arm around her boyfriend Leo's, smiling sweetly. Leo spoils me so much. He knew I loved this place, so he immediately bought a yearly membership. I knew it. There was no way Zoe, with her making peanuts salary, could afford a high-end coffee shop like this. Of course, she was using someone else's money to show off. I remained unfazed, offering a polite smile. Well then, we should thank Mr. Leo for his patronage. That's right. This coffee shop was one of my businesses. After all, with $1 billion in assets, letting it all sit in a bank earning interest would be boring. It was only natural for me to make a few investments. Zoe, who had been holding her coffee cup and trying to look artsy, slammed it down on the table. Just because you have money doesn't mean you should invest it recklessly. Be careful you don't go bankrupt. Realizing Leo was looking at her strangely, she picked up her cup again, took a sip, and said slowly, "What I mean is, I've had a change of heart. Money isn't important. What's important is whether the person by your side is truly genuine." Once she got started on that topic, she couldn't stop, rattling on about how wonderful Leo was, how he was a young achiever, and how he catered to her every whim. Watching Zoe, I just felt pity for her. What had possessed my sister? To be reborn and still be so clueless. Money isn't as important as a man's true love? What kind of nonsense was she spouting? Besides, did I not know exactly what kind of person this Leo was? In my past life, I had also been in a relationship with Leo. We met at a party at Mr. Peterson's house. At the time, Leo was Peterson's star pupil, and my mom was discussing marriage with Peterson. Leo was handsome and already a top expert in his field at 30. He was also incredibly kind to me. When a man like that pursued me so intensely, I really had no reason to refuse. But my mom, on Mr. Peterson's advice, was dead set against our marriage. Leo actually suggested we get pregnant first to force the issue, which I flatly refused. Who knew that my rejection would reveal his true colors? He started spreading slutty rumors about me everywhere. It caused me a great deal of trouble, and it took a long time to put the whole thing to rest. I later found out that the reason he was in such a hurry to marry me was that his top expert status was a complete fabrication. He was actually about to be fired from his company, and was hoping to use Mr. Peterson's university professor status to land a position at the university. A man like that could be genuine? Even if he was, his sincerity would be worthless. But all his shady dealings were child's play compared to Mr. Peterson's own disgusting secrets. While Leo was in the restroom, I decided to give Zoe a warning. No matter what, she was still my sister, and I didn't want to see her fall into that scumbag's clutches. Don't waste your time on a guy with the last name Leo. Mr. Peterson and our mom will never agree to it. I took a sip of my coffee and added, to be precise, they won't agree to you being with anyone. Stop spouting nonsense. You're just jealous, aren't you? Your husband won't touch you, so you can't stand to see me and Leo so happy together. Besides, Mr. Peterson is very good to me too. The only reason you two didn't get along was because you have an unlikable personality. I scoffed. Heh, so you think you're so popular with Mr. Peterson? In that case, I have nothing more to say. Good advice is wasted on those who are determined to self-destruct. Lately, I've been busy making my money work for me. Besides the coffee shop, I actually have several other businesses. With cash on hand, investing is a thrill, and I've finally fulfilled my old dream of being an entrepreneur. I used to dream of saving enough money to open my own shop, and for years, I worked almost every job imaginable. I learned the ins and outs of everything from production to sales to customer service. But for a broke 9-to-5er, saving up enough capital to start a business is no easy task. I never managed to do it before I died. But thinking back now, it was precisely the valuable experience gained from those entry-level jobs that allows me to understand the market, customers, and most importantly, employees, better than other investors. After half a year, not only has my $1 billion not shrunk, but it's actually grown quite a bit. I haven't told anyone though. One day, I was lying in bed, grinning at my bank account balance, when Julian suddenly burst into the bedroom, staring at me with a look of annoyance. "Woman, don't think you can get my attention by pretending to be uninterested in me. I looked up at him as if he were a complete moron. Fucking idiot. I said nonchalantly, if you have nothing to do, go find something. Stop hanging around me. I'm busy counting my money and don't have time for you. For some reason, Julian flew into a rage and started lecturing me. Money, money, money. You're just like all the other women. All you know is how to spend money. I scoffed internally. I probably knew better than anyone what happens when all you do is spend money. After all, I had Zoe's example as a cautionary tale. In her past life, she was a brainless spendthrift, blowing through her billion-dollar dowry in just over 2 years. The moment the money ran out, she remembered she should probably work on her marriage. But it was too late. By then, Julian was completely obsessed with his first love. I'm not like her. I never had any intention of maintaining this non-existent marriage. Why waste time on something so meaningless? Isn't focusing on making money more satisfying? A month later, my mother-in-law and I were on a plane to France. She was going on vacation, while I was going for 2 reasons. 1, to do market research for a new pop idol venture, and 2, because I couldn't stand Julian anymore. He had been showing up in front of me more and more often, always with his domineering CEO act. Woman, it's useless no matter how cold you pretend to be. I won't give you a second glance. I didn't know how to express my disdain for him. I truly, from the bottom of my heart, looked down on this kind of man who did nothing all day. Could a company really survive with a CEO like him? On that question, Julian soon provided a practical answer. It couldn't. He completely lacked the most basic decision-making skills a leader should have. During our 2 weeks in France, my mother-in-law received calls about company matters every day, most of them from Julian himself. He was a man approaching 30, yet he acted like a child, needing to ask his mother's opinion on everything. He couldn't make a single decision on his own, let alone handle the volatile world of business. My mother-in-law, fed up, booked an early flight back home. I came on this vacation to see if Julian could manage the company independently without me. It seems I really overestimated him. You, on the other hand, are so much more mature than he is. Watching you do your research these past few days reminded me of when I was young, helping his father run the business. I'll say what I said before. The King family truly married up by getting a girl like you. Looking at this kind, earnest elder, I found it hard to reconcile her with the evil mother-in-law Zoe had described. But in that moment I understood. My mother-in-law wasn't against anyone in particular, she just hated incompetence. She was this critical of her own useless son, so it was no wonder she couldn't stand her even more useless daughter-in-law Zoe. As it happened, in our shared hatred of incompetence, we found common ground. The first thing I did when I got back was to set up an entertainment company and start recruiting trainees on a massive scale. Chloe, was going to get a piece of the entertainment industry pie, and it was going to be a big one. When my mother-in-law found out, she was incredibly supportive, investing a large amount of capital and using her connections to get my trainees numerous opportunities for exposure. At first, I was a little hesitant, not wanting to owe her such a huge favor. But her words put my concerns to rest. Don't think I'm just spoiling you. This is business. I can't put all my eggs in one basket, especially when that King Enterprises basket is looking so flimsy. With her help, my trainees quickly gained some fame. A new show called Next Gen Idols was in the works, so I signed them up. And I, as one of the show's main sponsors, took a seat on the judges' panel as a mentor. Trainees from various companies performed one by one, but everyone knew they were just opening acts, meant to highlight the person coming up next. Hi everyone, my name is Serena Lynn. Serena Lynn, the consensus favorite to win. Julian's long-lost first love. I had to admit, Serena's face, which had clearly cost a fortune, was indeed captivating. No wonder that fool Julian was so bewitched by her. But as beautiful as she was, her talent was just as abysmal. Her rap performance was so offbeat it made me want to throw up. Your stage presence is excellent, but your technical skills need a lot of work. I thought I was being diplomatic enough, but I never expected Serena's team to be as manipulative as she was. They immediately went into overdrive, marketing her as a victim. Serena also dropped not-so-subtle hints about her past with Julian, guiding public opinion to paint me as a vicious woman who stole her man, and bought her way into a rich family. The show had only aired one episode, and the buzz around her and me had already overshadowed all the other trainees, which was exactly what her team wanted. Now the public was most interested in Julian's own stance. Insiders knew that the CEO of a publicly traded company would never comment on such tabloid gossip. However, they overestimated Julian's intelligence. I got a call from him. "If you just admit you were only pretending to be cold to me, I'll do you a favor and help you out this time." Fucking idiot. Yelling the words I had been holding back for so long, I hung up the phone. Half an hour later, I saw the headline. King Enterprises CEO publicly sides with Serena Lynn, reveals sentimental keepsake. You idiot. Did a donkey kick you in the head? I drove over to Julian's office, slapped him across the face, and cursed him out. He held his reddening cheek, staring at me in shock. The last person who hit me was my mom. Woman, you're playing with fire. If you keep mixing your personal and professional life like this, telling the world everything, you're the one who's going to get burned. Do you really think Serena Lynn is some angel? He smirked. Hey, woman, you really are jealous of Serena. As if you're worthy. I'm so done. Let it all burn. He's beyond saving. I was actually thinking of giving him a wake-up call, getting him to stay away from Serena, so my mother-in-law's life's work wouldn't go down the drain. But now I see there's no point. With a leader like him, it would be a miracle if King Enterprises didn't go bankrupt. King's rival, Apex Corp, didn't miss this golden opportunity. Riding the wave of Julian and Serena's tabloid news, they launched a smear campaign about Julian's chaotic personal life, and even exposed that the sentimental keepsake was actually a limited edition item from a brand that had insulted the country. In an instant, Julian's reputation plummeted, and along with it, the stock price of King Enterprises. I glanced at the ever-increasing balance in my bank account without a flicker of panic. He could go bankrupt for all I cared. I'd just keep making my money. We wouldn't interfere with each other. But in Zoe's eyes, things were obviously different. She was convinced that Julian and I were tied together, so the moment she heard King's stock was tanking, she called me to gloat. Even though Leo and I broke up, Mr. Peterson is so good to me. He buys me all sorts of designer things and supports me in whatever I want to do. Not like you. You have a rich husband, but he doesn't even care about you. At the end, she didn't forget to add, "Oh, sorry, I forgot. Your rich husband is about to go broke too." I said nothing and hung up. Sometimes, watching a fool's performance is just exhausting. That's just how Mr. Peterson is. He spends money like water, especially on young girls. His retirement pension, while not small, couldn't sustain that kind of spending. In my past life, my mom had to work several jobs to support them. It was exhausting. I tried to convince her to break up with him, but she insisted it was hard to find a caring partner at her age. Seeing that I couldn't persuade her, I decided to earn more money myself to help her out. That's why I quit my job as a gymnastics coach at a university to look for better opportunities. From that day on, I was the one working multiple jobs. But what I found most difficult to endure wasn't the pressure from work, but my mother's insatiable greed. She never felt sorry for me, she only complained that I didn't give her enough. Gradually, I realized my mom was a hopeless romantic, completely blinded by love. For that old creep Mr. Peterson, she had no problem working me like a horse. So what about now? My sister is famously lazy. There was no way she would go out and earn money, so my mom could only bear the burden herself. But my mom's frail body couldn't handle being exploited by both of them. Sure enough, a few days later, I got a call from my mom. She was crying on the phone, describing her miserable situation in detail. "I believe everything you're saying," I said calmly, "but what does that have to do with me?" I hung up. Playing the saint too often never ends well. Remember to let go of the need to be a savior and respect other people's destinies. The competition on Next Gen Idols was halfway through. The contestants were all giving their all to fight for a debut spot, with one exception, Serena Lynn. If I hadn't seen it with my own eyes, I would find it hard to believe that at this stage of the competition, someone could still perform the dancer so terribly. Her movements were sloppy, her voice was off-key, and she sang the final line, "No one sees the dancer's joy or sorrow." I had been holding it in for the entire song, but I couldn't anymore. No one sees this old lady's joy or sorrow either. The entire studio fell silent. My blood boiled, and I said sharply, if you had taken even one gymnastics class, you wouldn't have turned this piece, which incorporates rhythmic gymnastics, into such a mess. Have you no respect for the audience? No respect for rhythmic gymnastics? This is a desecration of the sport. The moment I finished, some fans behind me started grumbling. What's wrong with this woman? Does she even know anything about gymnastics? Yes, Serena is already trying so hard. This old woman is just jealous of Serena. Serena remained composed, smiling slightly. Chloe is right. I'm really not very good at this. But listening to you, it sounds like you know a lot about rhythmic gymnastics. Could you perhaps give a demonstration? As she spoke, she held up the ribbon she had used for her performance. I understood. She was challenging me. She was smiling so brightly and elegantly now, but that was fine. She wouldn't be smiling for long. I took the ribbon from her hand, and with a series of spins, leaps, and turns, my eyes closed, I moved with fluid beauty. It's been a while. I'm a little rusty, I said with a smile, handing the ribbon back to Serena. She was completely dumbfounded. But what would shock her even more was yet to come. That afternoon, someone online dug up another identity of mine that I had never mentioned. Former world champion in rhythmic gymnastics. These are just honors from the past. I didn't think they were worth mentioning. But the public's interest in this identity of mine far exceeded my expectations. In less than half a day, the news about me had spread all over the internet. Everyone was amazed by my achievements and admired my modesty. See, I told you a normal person couldn't marry into the richest family. You need to have some serious skills to be worthy. What are you talking about? She's a world champion. The King family definitely married up. Thanks to my world champion status, King Enterprises' reputation recovered, and the stock price, which had been falling for over a week, finally started to rise. The King family had dodged a bullet. My mother-in-law, who had been on edge for days, could finally breathe a sigh of relief. See, I told you. Your King family must have done something great in a past life to have you marry into it. You better appreciate her, you brat. It was only much later that I found out the person who first revealed my champion status online was actually hired by my mother-in-law. I asked her why she did it. She looked proud. My daughter-in-law is this amazing. I can't let some little nobody bully her. While I was thriving, things weren't going so well for Serena. After the dancer incident, her popularity plummeted. Her company poured a ton of resources into her, but her terrible skills made it all a waste of money. The company had no choice but to consider promoting someone else. Just like that, Serena was cast aside by her company. I don't know where the rumor started, but speculation was rampant that I would take this opportunity to crush Serena completely to promote my own trainees. Serena herself dropped all pretense of dignity. She cried in front of the camera, saying she was under a lot of pressure, her mental state was poor, she felt targeted, and she might have to drop out of the competition at any moment. The paid trolls also chimed in, insinuating that I was suppressing her. In reality, this was just the desperate struggle of a cornered animal. She had already been abandoned by her company. That was a done deal. No matter how much she struggled, she was just funding gossip blogs out of her own pocket. All I had to do was watch quietly. But I forgot, I still had Julian, my saboteur of a teammate. This time, he once again immediately came forward to declare his position. However, unlike last time, he stood firmly by my side. I stormed into his office, fuming at the sight of his "please praise my" expression. Did you not remember a single word I said about keeping your personal and professional life separate? Do you have the brain of a pig? He was clueless, raging impotently. You woman! I'm defending you, and you're still not satisfied? What do you want me to do? My phone vibrated in my pocket. I picked it up and my vision went dark. The rival company's move was faster than I had anticipated. The moment I saw Julian's ridiculous statement, I had contacted PR to minimize the damage, but it seemed I was too late. The internet was already flooded with negative news about Julian. Julian King speaking up for Chloe now? Isn't he just making things worse? LOL, this scumbag is trying to rebrand as a devoted husband. In an instant, all sorts of sordid rumors about him were dredged up. I knew they were fake, of course. But who cares about the truth when you're just looking for gossip? The scandal remained a hot topic for 3 whole days. I was determined to let him clean up his own mess. He fumbled around for over a month without getting anywhere, and in the end, my mother-in-law had to step in and fix it for him. At the family dinner that night, my mother-in-law looked exhausted. I'm getting old. I've wanted to let go for a while now. This is the last time I'll help you. From now on, don't come to me with any company matters. Listen to your wife more. He was quite a quick learner. Honey, do you have any suggestions for the company's future development? I took a sip of red wine and looked at my mother-in-law. Mom, if it's possible, I suggest you have another child. When it rains, it pours. Lately, it felt like everything was going wrong. Just as Julian's mess was resolved, news came that my mom was sick and hospitalized. The moment Julian and I arrived at the hospital room, my mom started complaining. You wretched girl, you finally came. I guess you still have a conscience. You're praising me too soon. We're actually here to get back the $50,000 Julian gave you. This idiot, trying to suck up to me, had transferred her $50,000 without a second thought after hearing she was in the hospital. Luckily, he came to me to boast about it right after, otherwise I would have lost $50,000 and been kept in the dark. Chloe, how could you be so shameless? It's bad enough you're not paying for anything, but now you want to take back the money your brother-in-law gave? I shot a cold glance over. Zoe was returning from outside, loaded with shopping bags, with Mr. Peterson trailing behind her. Looked like they'd been on a shopping spree. My mom got sick from exhaustion supporting these 2 leeches, and they had the audacity to go shopping? What nerve! I sneered. Wow, buying so many luxury goods. You didn't happen to use the $50,000 my husband lent you, did you? What's it to you? My brother-in-law lent me the money. It's none of your business. I said playfully, oh, your brother-in-law regrets it. He wants it back. Zoe's big eyes fluttered as she looked at Julian. Brother-in-law, is what she's saying true? I remained silent, looking at Julian. Like a well-behaved kitten, he nodded obediently, earning a smile from me. I turned back to Zoe. You don't have to return it. You can just pay interest. Zoe transferred the money while muttering under her breath, you heartless bitch. All you care about is money, money, money. Not like me. I value relationships. I looked at her, then at Mr. Peterson, who was still fawning over her. If you really value relationships, that's great. Mr. Peterson's feelings for you run very deep. And so we reached the finale night. Witnessed by millions, Hannah, from the same company as Serena Lynn, emerged as a dark horse to win the championship and debut as the group's center. Many might have found this result surprising, but I knew that this young girl's talent fully deserved such a reward. I had seen her practicing dance alone late at night. I had seen her fall and get bruised while practicing difficult moves, crying, then getting back up to practice again. I had seen her practicing with a high fever of 104 and 4 drip in her arm. Honestly, she worked harder and was more talented than any of the trainees under me. Now she stood at the very center of the stage, under the watchful eyes of the public, holding her trophy and crying like a child. Through her sobs, she expressed her endless gratitude to me, saying that it was thanks to me that she had made it to this point. Before the final competition, rumors were flying that I was using my capital to suppress trainees from other companies to promote my own artists. Many unscrupulous gossip bloggers even predicted that the final center position would definitely go to one of my trainees. However, reality slapped these people hard in the face. I did use my capital, but it was to support Hannah. During that time, rumors circulated among the trainees that Hannah was thinking of quitting. For a girl who loved the stage so much, quitting had to be a last resort. I had someone look into it, and found out that her father was seriously ill, and they couldn't afford the treatment. Without a second thought, I covered all of her father's medical expenses, which allowed her to focus on the competition without any worries. Dreams are precious. Kids from ordinary families should be brave enough to chase them. I hope you never give up easily. I'm here for you. I thought that after the show ended, I could finally get away from all the drama and rest for a while. But fate had other plans. The secret formula for King Enterprises' flagship product was leaked. In my past life, this was the event that marked the beginning of the King family's downfall, leading to their complete bankruptcy 6 months later. The news was a huge scandal at the time. My sister cried to me then, saying it was all that bitch Serena Lynn's fault. Seeing that her chances of marrying into the family were gone, she had turned to the president of Apex Corp. She was the one who wheedled the secret formula out of Julian and leaked it. But in this life, Julian followed my every command and had long since cut ties with Serena. How could he have fallen for her trick again? Julian stammered. She said if I didn't give her the formula, she would have you kidnapped. I put my head in my hands. And you think she didn't just kidnap me directly because she doesn't like kidnapping? I roared in frustration. I have 2 bodyguards with me every time I leave the house. How would she kidnap me? Do you have a brain? And even if she did, what's more valuable, me or the secret formula? You're more valuable. You're more valuable than anything. Julian answered instantly. Besides, the family has so many product lines, we don't just rely on this one, right? My head was spinning with anger. I seriously wanted to crack his head open and see what kind of wiring was inside. Seeing my expression darken, he asked quietly, so what do we do now? Mom said to listen to you more. I sighed deeply and looked out the window. I'll point you to a solution. Why don't you just jump out that window right now? The atmosphere was incredibly awkward, but luckily my phone rang, breaking the tension. As soon as I answered, I heard my mother's frantic wails. You need to come back and see. Something's happened to your sister. Zoe was a sobbing mess, unable to string a coherent sentence together. My mom was also hemming and hawing, as if she had something she couldn't bring herself to say. It took me a while to piece together what had happened. Simply put, my sister had nearly been raped, and the man who tried to assault her was none other than my mom's new partner, Mr. Peterson. I knew my sister was stupid, but I didn't know she could be this stupid. My mom was at a loss. What do we do now? Your sister is like this, and Mr. Peterson has run off. How am I supposed to live the rest of my life? Her wailing was giving me a headache. What can we do? I said impatiently. Call the police, get him arrested, and then we'll figure out the rest. At the mention of this, my mom's face changed drastically, and she frantically tried to stop me. No, we can't call the police. If we call the police, Mr. Peterson will be ruined. Besides, flies don't bite a seamless egg. If Zoe had been more decent, a man wouldn't have tried to rape her. There she was, the mother I knew so well. In my past life, when I told her that old creep had designs on me, she had the same dead-set attitude. From that moment, I understood that my mom was completely blinded by love. She would rather believe her own daughter was a promiscuous slut than admit that the man she loved was an old pervert. Zoe had stopped crying now, but her expression was even more hopeless than before. While my mom was out of the room, she confronted me. You knew he was this kind of person all along, didn't you? Why didn't you tell me? Of course. How could I not know? I was just smarter and more decisive than her. When I discovered Mr. Peterson's true nature and realized my mom wouldn't be on my side, I fled that hellhole overnight and started living on my own. I had given almost all the money I'd earned to my mom, so life after leaving home was incredibly tough. I tried asking my rich sister for help, but at the height of her glory, she wouldn't even give me the time of day. And now you have the nerve to blame me? You've got a lot of gall, I said to Zoe, furious. She was stunned into silence. I gave her a contemptuous look. So what if you were reborn? So what if you made a different choice? You see it now, don't you? No matter how you choose, you're the one who loses. Do you know why? Zoe bit her lower lip, her expression turning savage, her eyes filled with hatred. I leaned in close to her, caressed her pretty face, and said with a smile, because you're stupid. You always pin your hopes on others. You've never once thought about changing things yourself. Silly sister, a useless fool, even with 100 second chances, would just be performing 100 ways for a fool to die. I'll kill you. She suddenly shrieked, lunging at me and grabbing my collar, trying to choke me. But before her hands could tighten, the bodyguards who had burst through the door slammed her to the ground. She let out a scream like a pig being slaughtered. I squatted down to examine her, sighing dramatically. You didn't really think we were on the same level anymore, did you? I was already doing you a favor by letting you get close. And you actually tried to kill me. Pinned to the floor, she thrashed and writhed wildly, Like a madwoman. Oh, I shouldn't say like a madwoman. Given her state, she probably was. That night, my mom called me crying. What do? Your sister went crazy and jumped into the river. She was lucky someone pulled her out in time. But she was already acting erratically before she jumped, and the shock of the cold river water made her even crazier. Now she goes berserk whenever she sees a man, and when she does, she tries to kill them. My mom had no choice but to pay to have her committed to a psychiatric hospital. Are you sure you don't want to help? Your mom is having a really hard time, Julian asked cautiously, stealing glances at me like an old eunuch awaiting an imperial decree. I rolled my eyes at him. Stay out of it. She's getting what she deserves. You should worry about your own problems. I heard the workers haven't been paid in over 2 months and are about to riot. He puffed out his chest. Don't you worry about that. I already have a solution. Just wait and see your man in action in a couple of days. I looked at him doubtfully, muttering to myself, can I really trust him? I have to say, when it comes to being a disappointment, Julian never lets me down. A few days later, he answered my question with his actions. Not in the slightest. He gathered the employee representatives for a so-called mobilization meeting. He looked so confident that I actually thought he had come up with a good plan to overcome the crisis. Who knew he would propose suspending workers' wages, and then launch into a long speech. I know everyone is struggling, so I'm willing to lead by example. Starting today, I, Julian King, will also stop receiving a salary. I believe that as long as we all work together, we can definitely get through this difficult time. The stench of a blood-sucking capitalist was so strong it made me sick. The worker representatives below the stage were obviously not buying his nonsense, and were shouting about beating him up. Just as the situation was about to spiral out of control, a figure strode onto the stage with bright and brave, raised a thin stick, and brought it down on Julian's back. The crowd fell silent. Julian stood there stunned for 2 seconds, then looked back in utter disbelief. The one who hit him was none other than his own mother, and the one who handed her the stick was none other than his own wife. This one is for the workers, my mother-in-law said, holding the stick, her expression stern. You're a rich kid, you don't rely on a salary to live. But have you ever thought about how these ordinary workers are supposed to support their families without a paycheck? My mother-in-law's anger gradually faded, replaced by disappointment. I never let you suffer a single day, but I never thought that would be your downfall, turning you into such a useless person. Julian rubbed his back, looking aggrieved. My mother-in-law shoved him aside with a look of disgust, then turned to me with a smile and beckoned me to the stage. As for the company's future, everyone, please don't worry. I hereby promise that for the next 2 months, wages will be paid as usual. If the company cannot continue to operate after 2 months, I will pay everyone the appropriate compensation in accordance with the law. But I believe we won't get to that point, because my wonderful daughter-in-law has already drafted a complete set of response plans for this crisis. As she spoke, she gently took my hand. Oh, my mistake. I should call you Chairwoman Chloe. I now formally announce that Julian King is stepping down from the position of chairman. A familiar female voice rang out from the back of the crowd. Don't get too happy, Chloe. I've already spent a fortune to secure a relationship with the Zhang family. Your raw material supply chain is about to be cut off. Even if you have godlike powers, you won't be able to save this sinking ship. Serena, uninvited, had a look of sweet revenge written all over her face. Julian King, you threw me away for your new wife, so don't blame me for being ruthless. Didn't see this coming, did you? The empire your parents built, brought down by me alone. She pushed through the crowd, flanked by her bodyguards, and stood before me, her face a mask of provocation. Chloe, you stole what was rightfully mine. You were really asking for it. Julian shielded me, then started spewing his usual domineering CEO lines. If you're trying to provoke me, I'll tell you right now, you've succeeded. Get out of the way, I said impatiently, grabbing Julian's collar and yanking him behind me. I met Serena's defiant gaze, my presence just as imposing. You don't really think you've won, do you? In my past life, Apex Corp had secured its victory by cutting off the king's supply of raw materials. As it happens, in my past life, I worked for a time as a live-in nanny, and my employer, Mr. Zhang, was actually the boss of the king's raw material supplier. But by then, the situation was already a done deal, and there was nothing I could do. This time was different. When I saw things heading in the same direction, I anticipated Serena's next move and contacted Mr. Zhang first. Mr. Zhang had divorced years ago and never remarried, raising his 5.5-year-old daughter, Mimi, on his own, spoiling her rotten. Mimi was an extremely picky eater and never ate properly. Mr. Zhang had spent a fortune trying to fix it, but nothing worked, until I came along. In my past life, it took me half a year to cure the little girl's picky eating habits. Once she started eating normally, her personality improved a lot, and for that, Mr. Zhang was incredibly grateful to me. Since I could handle Mimi perfectly in my past life, of course, I could do it again in this one. The King and Zhang families were business partners for years. Using this connection, I invited them to a dinner party and presented them with a homemade chestnut cake, Mimi's absolute favorite. The little girl fell in love with it at first bite and ate several pieces. Mr. Zhang was stunned and insisted on getting the recipe from me, saying he would pay any price. I didn't want his money. I wanted his guarantee of a continuous supply of raw materials. He readily agreed, and went home satisfied with my recipe. My mother-in-law was a little worried. "Aren't you afraid he'll go back on his word?" "Not at all. Even if Serena tries to tempt him with money later, I can guarantee he won't back out. Mimi will get tired of that chestnut cake in a week or two, and then he'll have to come back to me. And I have hundreds of recipes for foods that Mimi loves. Enough to keep him on the hook for a decade." Serena answered a phone call, and her face turned a ghastly shade of green and purple. I taunted her. "Why aren't you smiling anymore? Were you born without a sense of humor?" Seeing her speechless, I pressed my advantage. "Was that Mr. Zhang on the phone? Did he tell you he won't agree to your request? Oh dear, it seems he doesn't care about your dirty money." Furious, she lunged at me, trying to start a fight. Julian, though a mental lightweight, had quick reflexes. He grabbed Serena's arm and shoved her back hard. "My woman is not for you to touch." At that moment, the domineering CEO line didn't sound so nauseating. Serena stumbled back, signaling her bodyguards to attack. To be honest, I was kind of curious to see if a battle-damaged version of Julian would be easier on the eyes, but my rational side told me that if a real fight broke out, it would be more than just battle-damaged. So I intervened. "Gentlemen, you're protecting her now, but when she's facing charges and goes to prison, don't blame me for not warning you when you can't collect your pay." "What nonsense are you talking about?" "Oh, you don't know yet? I've already submitted a report to the relevant authorities, accusing you of corporate espionage and unfair business competition. The money you gave Mr. Zhang has also been submitted as evidence." What a shame. Someone might be going to jail. Serena's ability to handle pressure was too low. She fainted right there on the stage. Julian gave me a thumbs up. "Honey, you're amazing. What would I do without you? Get lost." If I wasn't afraid of Mom's life's work going down the drain, I wouldn't have bothered with your mess. When I said King Enterprises was my mother-in-law's life's work, it was no exaggeration. She had told me about her struggles when she was young. Back then, my father-in-law was just a reckless young man who lost money on every business venture, becoming the laughingstock of their village. It was only after he married my mother-in-law that their lives started to turn around. Later, when they founded King Enterprises, my mother-in-law was involved in everything, worrying about every single detail. You have no idea how much those years aged me. My health suffered so much that the doctor said if I kept pushing myself like that, I would lose the baby in my belly. My mother-in-law recalled the past with a look of heartache. But even after working my fingers to the bone for the company for so many years, I never had a formal position. Julian's deadbeat dad always said that women couldn't be entrusted with important responsibilities. She looked resentful, but then a sly smile appeared. He calculated everything, but he never calculated that he would die young. After he died, both his son and the company had to listen to me, didn't they? Just thinking about that makes me feel better. My mother-in-law was usually such an elegant lady. I found her attitude toward her late husband a bit absurd, but mostly endearing. I smiled and said, "It's a good thing Julian isn't like his father. He's very supportive of me taking over the company." "He'd better be." My mother-in-law took my hand and said gently, "My dear girl, You must always remember, we women are no worse than those men. We don't have to hide in the shadows supporting them. I understood completely and nodded with a smile. After careful consideration, I reported Mr. Peterson to the police without telling my mom. He was sentenced to 6 years in prison. On the day of his arrest, my mom came and made a scene, saying I had ruined her happiness for the rest of her life. I told her that wasn't true, happiness was still possible. Then I turned around and sent her to the Happy Time Senior Living Home. Julian was sent to a grassroots position for training. In my mother-in-law's words, he needed to experience all the hardships he had missed in his 30 years to toughen him up. To ensure he received no special treatment, my mother-in-law deliberately concealed his identity and sent him to one of the company's most remote factories. At first, Julian cried and threw tantrums like a spoiled child who didn't want to go to school. That all ended the day he got his first paycheck. A monthly salary of $1,500, which he received with the excitement of someone getting $15 million. He called me that day, giddy with joy, to show off his huge $1,500 earnings. You know what? This is the first time I've ever earned money through my own labor. For the first time, I feel like my life has meaning, and that meaning is work. From then on, Julian's motivation skyrocketed. He repeatedly won outstanding employee awards for hauling heavy bags at the factory. I used to think I'd ruined him, but it turns out I just chose the wrong path. He's a physical type, apparently, my mother-in-law remarked, then grabbed her suitcase and set off on her vacation. As for me, I wasn't so leisurely. Both King Enterprises and my entertainment company were thriving. I was swamped with making money and counting it. This feeling of being busy but happy, it was truly addicting.